throughout America. When we talk about abortion and how women's rights to choose, that is impacting people. Those are things that are dinner table discussions, and I'm happy to see these issues being talked about with local candidates and with people, with mayors such as myself.
All right, let me also go across to Professor Babonis. Like I said, this is such a closely contested fight between Trump and Harris. It essentially boils down to the half a dozen or so battleground states. Professor Babonis, what's your take? I know you're far away in Europe, you're vacationing right now, so thank you for joining us in the middle of your vacation. But what is really at stake in this election, according to you? And given those stakes, which way do you reckon this election is going?
The national polling is very tight between Trump and Harris, but that has to be seen in the context that in the previous two elections, national polls have dramatically underrepresented the true Donald Trump level of support and level of voting in the general election. That said, even if the voting were 50-50 in terms of the popular vote, that would probably be reflected in a crushing victory for Donald Trump, because the way the vote is structured in the United States, Democrats run up huge popular vote majorities in California and New York, while on the other hand, the Republican vote is spread more evenly throughout the country, with the result that if it really is a 50-50 election, it will be a runaway Donald Trump victory in the Electoral College. Now, if we believe that the true popular vote is much more like 51-49 in favor of Trump or 52-48, then we really could see a landslide. And that's something that I don't think a lot of political pundits are preparing for, the possibility that this might not be a very close election after all.
I'll just come back to you in a second on the battlegrounds, but Lisa's here and I'll get a final word in with her before we let her go. So one of the points that Professor Babonis was making was, if you're a Democratic candidate, you want to be at least a couple, if not more, 3 or 4% above in the national popular vote, because there is an inherent sort of bias in the electoral college system. His argument is that because the national popular vote is so close, it actually will lead to a decisive
who became the
Trump
first
victory in the
woman,
Electoral College.
first Black American, and first South Asian American to become vice president in 2021.
I don't think it matters as much what's happening at the national popular level. I think what matters is who is going to get those
Traditionally,
electoral votes
the vice
in the
presidency
7 battleground
has been a
states.
relatively
And each one of
insignificant
those
position
is
in
too
U.S.
close to call.
politics.
They're very close,
For some people, the
closer than
job
others.
mostly amounts to
Pennsylvania
attending
seems to be
funerals
dead
on
even.
behalf
So
of the president,
I don't.
or assisting them with moral support. In fact, the first vice president of the United States, John Adams, called it the most insignificant office. Former President Abraham Lincoln's vice president, Hannibal Hamlin, used to refer to himself as the most unimportant man in Washington. And ex-President Franklin Roosevelt's vice president, John Nance Garner, famously said the vice presidency does not worth a bucket of warm spit. But times have changed in recent decades. The office has become more important and influential than ever. To be the deputy of the U.S. president, you just need to have 3 qualifications. First, you should be at least 35 years of age. Second, you must be a natural-born citizen of the United States. And lastly, you should have lived in the country for at least 14 years. And what will you exactly do as the U.S. vice president? Let's dive in. The American Constitution, which was written nearly 237 years ago, mentions the role of the vice president only a handful of times. The second in command is also